name is Martin Malelu and I'm a librarian with LA County Library. Today we're going to talk about pronouns, what they are, why they're important, and then we're going to do an activity where we make a patch that you can put your own pronouns on or put someone you know their pronouns on it, and then you can sew it onto something. The pronouns we're going to talk about today are singular third person pronouns. So they're the pronouns that you would use if you're referring to someone else in the third person. So not the pronoun I or you, but the one that you would use to refer to someone else. The pronouns that we are probably most familiar with are he and him, and she and her, and more commonly they and them. But there are also neo-pronouns such as me and them that are becoming more and more common. The best way to know someone's pronouns is to ask. While it might be awkward to ask what pronouns someone uses, it is respectful to refer to people the way that they want to be referred to. You can also make it less awkward by just offering up your own pronouns if you feel comfortable doing so. I often introduce myself and say, "Hi, my name is Martin, and I use they, them pronouns. How should I refer to you?" This gives me the opportunity to let other people know how I would like to be referred to, and allows them to tell me how they would like to be referred to. If you don't know what pronouns someone uses, it's pretty common to default to they, them, which is fine until you learn their pronouns, and then you should refer to them by the pronouns they told you to refer to them as. Someone may tell you that they use multiple pronouns such as he, they, or they may tell you that they don't want to use any pronouns and that they only want to be referred to by their name. And those are things that you should also be respectful of. If you are only familiar with people using he, him, and she, her pronouns, and having certain expectations around what people who use those pronouns should look like, it might be worthwhile to start asking people what their pronouns are and introducing yourself with your pronouns to get in the habit of doing so. It is never a good idea to assume someone's pronouns. You can't tell what someone's pronouns are based on the way they're dressed or the way they present themselves or any other information besides them telling you what their pronouns are. If you're interested in learning more, at lacountylibrary.org/pride, there is a learning pathway that will give you a little bit more information on what gender is, what pronouns are, and how those things are tied together and how they're not tied together. And it also has resources from the library that you can check out to learn more information as well. And with that, let's go ahead and make a patch. All right, for this activity, you're gonna need a knife. You can use a box cutter or a craft knife. You're gonna need fabric paint. You're gonna need freezer paper. You're gonna need a pencil. You're gonna need a sponge brush. You can probably use a regular paintbrush, but I think a sponge brush works best. You're gonna need a scrap of fabric for your patch. I cut up an old pair of jeans that I had worn out. You're gonna need a piece of cardboard, and you're gonna need an iron. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure our freezer paper is the same size as our patch. It can also be smaller. Basically, you just wanna make sure that whatever you design on your freezer paper is gonna fit onto your patch. So I'm gonna cut this down a little bit. Alright, so I cut this down pretty small. It'll fit on here now. I am making this very little, which is fine. So I'm going to draw my patch on here. I'm gonna write my words on here, and since I'm making a stencil, I want to be able to cut them out. All right, so I'm gonna write my pronouns on here, and then I'll show you what it looks like. And when you're doing this, you wanna make sure you're writing on the matte side. There's a shiny side to this freezer paper, and there's a matte side. So go ahead and draw on the matte side. Alright, so I made mine like this, and you can see that they are letters that I'll be able to cut out. So I want all the letters to be negative space, and I added a little line in there just for decoration. It doesn't have any purpose other than aesthetic. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these letters out, and then we'll go from there. To cut these out, I'm going to cut all my cardboard. This cardboard is going to serve two purposes. One is as my cutting surface so I don't damage anything, and the other is going to be for painting. So I'm going to use my box cutter and cut these letters out. Alright, I have my stencil all done, and as you can tell, it's not perfect. That's okay. It's great. I like it. I think it is good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shiny side, the side that I didn't write on, and I'm going to put it on my patch like so. I'm going to iron it, because when you iron it, it's going to adhere to the fabric enough to where when we paint over it, it'll hold. Alright, I've got my thing ironed on, so it's on there pretty well. It only takes a couple go-overs with the iron to get it on there well enough. So I'm going to put it on my cardboard now, and I'm going to put the paint colors that I want to use on here just so that it makes it a little bit easier to do. So I'm going to do black and green and purple. So I'm going to start one and paint this whole thing with these paints. It might take a couple go-overs to get it thoroughly coated. You don't want to do it too thick because you want it to be able to dry, but you also don't want it to be too thin because you don't want it to be see-through. So I'm going to go ahead and paint. Alright, so mine is done, and here it is, and I'm gonna let it dry, and then we'll peel it off and see how it turned out. Alright, my patch is dried, and I'm going to peel this off. I already started peeling it off a little bit, and I'm just gonna peel it off the rest of the way. Alright, and there it is. It's a little chunkier than I would have liked. I could have smoothed my paint out a little bit more, but other than that, it looks pretty good. I'll probably wait for it to dry a little bit more before I put it on anything, but yeah, there you go. Thank you for joining me today for making pronoun patches. I hope that you had a good time and that you learned a little bit about pronouns, and that you visit lacountylibrary.org/pride to check out everything we have going on that page. We try to keep it updated, so check it out. Bye for now.